Let's go. I was born to kill it. I was meant to win. I am down and willing, so I will find a way. It took a minute, now it didn't happen right away. When it get hot in the kitchen, you decide to stay. That's how it winners made. Stick a fork in the hater on my dinner plate. I walk into the fire like it's just a...
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cydesdale Media Podcast, our interview series. My name is Scott Switz from the Cydesdale. I have with me today Jamie Latimer, and soon we'll have Jason Grubb with us. He's having a delivery come to his house just as we were getting started. He just needs a minute or two, and he'll be hopping on with us. So we're here. We're going to talk some master stuff. So before Jason hops on, it was announced where Masters is finally, where it's going to be. Birmingham, Alabama, Labor Day weekend. What are your thoughts?
I mean, you know my thoughts. I think the same as the teens is crazy, but again, they were obviously scrambling here at the end, having to sign something before the Open started, and they had to take what they could get. And at least it's out before the Open, and we have the information, and we can do with it as we please at this point. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody in the chat for welcoming me back. This is kind of a test run. Jamie is my crutch. She's going to help me get through this interview. We're going to see how it goes. And that'll kind of depend on the schedule going forward. The biggest disappointment for me and our team is that we have been diving deep into teen and masters coverage this offseason, and we're really geared up to kind of cover both this offseason. And I feel like CrossFit and Legends and the powers that be didn't really think about the media aspect of having these two events on the same weekend.
Yeah. I mean, not only media, but like I said this on our Thursday night, like it's the biggest shared pool of viewership, spectatorship, everything. And you're cutting probably that in half for both venues, both live stream. You're making people choose which one they're going to cover. It's crazy to me. And if you have a media team like you, which one do you choose to go to? I mean, that's going to be the case for coaches, families, things like that too. Which one do you go to? What if you have a teen and a mom that both compete?
Most third-party media companies are not big enough to split between the two events.
Right.
You might have a couple that can do that. We may try to do that, but we're gonna have to see how it falls, because it's gonna be rough that these two major events that everybody's saying they are the CrossFit Games. Like Bob even said on an interview recently, Bob with Legends, that he didn't care if Legends was in the name. Like, it is the CrossFit Games to them. And so you have these CrossFit Games that won't be able to be covered by everybody. It's going to be a master cluster. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Oh, Corey, I hope you go. I hope you get on a team, Corey, and I hope you're there. I'm not too tall to be your crutch. We're like the same height. Right here on my shoulder.
Saying that a male is your height is
yeah,
not helpful. But
and I'm sure you might have like a half inch on me, Corey.
I don't know about that. I think you're pretty much the same height, but it just was the biggest blow to me, probably in this whole off season, was finding out they were on the same weekend.
Agreed.
You've also talked to me about, and we want to talk to Jason about this, but there's been some announcements about the kit, the apparel kit, and maybe falling short of what you would get in the past. And I said to you, that sucks because that's what legitimizes a master's athlete as an elite athlete.
Yeah.
Post on Instagram in your games gear, it automatically gives you a legitimization that you can't get anywhere else. You don't have the name that Matt Frazier has, or Rich Froning, or those guys, right? So you need these things to help you market yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we say this all the time. It's not like all about the money. The money isn't there in the team or in the masters as it is for individuals. It's not, I mean, it's nothing to shake a stick at. Like, it's pretty decent, especially in the 35-39, but that's like one person is going to win a decent amount of money. So there's tons of athletes. You hear this all the time. And I know people say it's not the right mindset. But there's a big subset of athletes that are just trying to make it to semis, just trying to get to the games. There's a lot of people who aren't like, I'm going and winning the games. That's a very, very few. Maybe your top 10 are saying that. Maybe a top 20 say it, but I think in their heart of hearts, they know they're just going to try to podium, try to be top 10. There's a big, big, big chunk of people who are just trying to get there. And they're trying to get there for this kit and somewhat the notoriety, but like that is probably $3,000 worth of stuff. 6 pairs of shoes, 6 outfits, a duffel bag, a backpack, an entire like you get a sweatshirt, a zip up hoodie, a whole warm up set, nice like jacket. It's an insane amount of stuff. So much gear that, from my understanding, is being pulled. And oh, there he is. Can I throw him in? I had to stage.
There he is.
Hey guys.
Well, the joys of home ownership, huh?
So great. Getting I think we just received 8,000 pounds of rock to move. So yeah, I got a job to do. Be fun.
Thank God you CrossFit.
Thank God at CrossFit is correct. And I like to take on these big old huge projects from time to time that are just totally overwhelming at the wrong time of year. So that's what I've decided to do. And yeah, it all has to do with water management around this place. Did you know in Birmingham, Alabama gets more rain than Seattle, Washington?
Interesting.
Now you know.
I did not know that. I did not know.
Yes. No one knows that. It doesn't rain all the time, but when it rains, it's insane.
Got it.
So we back up to a mountain, and there's a mountain of there's the water that just kind of runs off that mountain for days, creates like small rivers in our yard. So we're creating a French drain, and it's love fun facts with Jason Grubb. So yeah, we're learning. And so anyway, it's a big old project. I rented an excavator. I've never used an excavator. So I've bitten off a big chunk here.
Yeah.
Well, that is awesome because you have nothing else to do with your life, with everything.
I'm not that big. It's crazy. It's crazy. When the guy was like, "Hey, I'm running 10 minutes late," I'm like, "Oh man, okay," because I have like 2 podcasts and a meeting. Whatever. Thursdays are my days to get things done. It's a rest day from training or recovery day, which I'll still do something later, but it frees me up in the mornings. But then that's when deliveries happen, podcasts happen, all kinds of fun things. But Scott, you're doing better.
I'm doing better. I'll say that.
Good.
Today is test day for me. I have Jamie on with me as a crutch, so she can help me with this lift and see where we're at, kind of, if I can get back to doing full interviews or not.
Totally. Well, welcome back. I hope it goes perfectly.
Yeah. Well, that never happens. So if that happened, God was
Win-win.
involved.
Yeah.
But I wanted to, last time we had you on, we had a few technical issues and you had to like split pretty early. So I wanted to clean up a couple things.
Yeah.
First of all, everybody, we have Jason Grubb with us, 4-time CrossFit Games champion. And won every off-season competition this year that he entered. So on a roll, I want to talk to you about 10 years ago, you made a transformation. What were you doing before that transformation? And what was the catalyst that got you to make that change?
Man, I wish it was more inspirational. But prior to CrossFit, I was a wedding photographer, and I had been doing that for 7 or 8 years. Prior to that, I played poker for 2 years in Las Vegas and flew from Colorado to Las Vegas every week to go play poker. But so I did that. That was fairly sedentary. Wedding photography was certainly hard work on the day of wedding photography, but it was a lot of time behind a computer, a lot of time. So really in my 20s and 30s, I would try to stay somewhat. I was just trying not to be unfit. I was trying not like my family is generally overweight, and fairly unhealthy and addicted to everything. So I was trying to avoid all of those things, but I was slowly succumbing into those things. Like I was drinking, 3 or 4 beers a night. This is kind of what we did in the cul-de-sac. Everyone would go out in the cul-de-sac in the neighborhood at night and like just grab a beer out of anyone's fridge. This was part of my routine for 10 years. I was chewing tobacco at the time, which was a habit I picked up playing poker. So I was 38 when I started CrossFit, and I was trying to run consistently. Like I was in a place where maybe for like 6 months, I was running like 4 or 5 miles 3 times a week and really feeling like I was really cooking. I was doing well. And it's starting to get cold outside. It was late November of 2013. It's getting cold out, and I hate running in the cold. I just hate it. So my sister-in-law had been doing CrossFit for years. I knew that. She's like, Jason, for years, she's like, Jason, you would love it. It'd be great. And like, she was eating paleo and doing all the things. I was like, I'm not into that. Like, no, thanks. I didn't know what CrossFit was really at the time, but I just knew that, I'm fine. I'm running. I'm fine. I know what I'm doing. And I didn't know what I was doing, obviously. But she invited me finally in like November. We're having dinner and she's like, look, hey, my gym has like, you get a free month. I get a free month if you sign up. If you want to just come try it out, if you like it, we both get a free month. And I was like, fine, I'll go try it out. And I'm not super excited about this. I was probably like 3 beers deep when I committed to this thing. Like I wasn't sober. And I immediately had regrets. I was nervous the whole day. I think I went on a Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. I think that's the night I went. And I didn't want to go. I was nervous. Like I went to the gym. It was like in a warehouse area. Like I didn't even know where the front door was. I walked in. I didn't know what to do. Just walk in and there's this big warehouse with a gym. And, like she came and saw me, thank God, and rescued me from just being super confused. And there was a class with like 5 people in it. It was really simple, fun. Like we did a couple of things that like I knew how to do. Like the workout had handstand push-ups, and like you don't walk into CrossFit and just do handstand push-ups. So I was like, well, I could do handstand. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, I could do handstands. Like I was a gymnast until I was 16 years old, and from like 12 to 16. And I had just been able to keep doing handstands my whole life, like a party trick. So I kicked up to a handstand and they were just floored. They thought I was amazing. And that was probably enough to stroke my ego in that moment that like, oh, handstands are cool here? Because I never thought I would have a reason to do a handstand except to win a bet at a party or something.
Party trick, yeah.
Yeah, it's a party trick. It's, like I was on a beach in Cancun photographing a wedding, and me and the groomsmen had a handstand contest. Of course I won. But yeah, I enjoyed the gym, I enjoyed the workout. So I didn't end up joining that gym. It was just a little bit too far away from my house to drive. So I tried another gym on the following Monday, because now I'm kind of intrigued. Like, this is interesting. So I go to that first class, and the class was great. It was a 9 a.m. class. There's a bunch of 40-year-old men and women in the class. Some of them are more overweight than I am. But some of them were less, whatever, it doesn't matter. But we're all in around this age group, and we start this workout. It's like power cleans and burpees or something. And I die. It just kills me. And I see these guys all around me, like, destroying, older than me, lots of gray hair. They're killing this workout. And I've got my hands on my knees. And that was enough to, like, cause me to feel like a huge amount of confusion. Like, how are they all doing this? This is crazy. How are they all this fit? Like, this is no big deal for them. And I can't, and I'm dying. And like, even next to me was like a pregnant woman, and she murdered the workout, and I'm dying. So I was just so confused, and like, I have to figure this out. And I gave him my credit card. I'm like, here, sign me. I don't care what it costs. I didn't ask. I was like, just sign me up. They're like, well, you get a free week. I'm like, fine, here's my credit card. Charge me next Monday. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm here. And I went 6 days a week for like 9 months straight. Not optimal as well, because that's a good way to get hurt. But that was it, Scott. I got sort of like bamboozled into going to a class and then kind of enjoying it, and then going to another class and being like just confused at how everyone was so good at this and how terrible I was. And for whatever reason, if I feel that kind of feeling, like, I'm all in, I got to figure this out. And I'm also that kind of person. Like, I inherited a wonderfully addictive personality that I can hone as a superpower, or for good or for evil. It could be a good thing or a bad thing. So the good thing is that if I'm all in on something, every ounce of my energy and passion and thought process goes towards figuring that out. And that's kind of what the first year of CrossFit was, like, figuring this out, and then eventually becoming one of the fittest people in that gym, and then opening my own gym, and then eventually finding my way into the competitive CrossFit world.
So I'm glad you said addictive personality. I started CrossFit over 500 pounds. So and I got down to 260 in like the first couple years. I kept it off for like 7 years before injury hit me. I replaced one addiction with another addiction. And what that did is it gave me an imbalance in my life, that I wasn't the best husband. I wasn't the best father during that time. And I probably went, like, at my age and after carrying that much weight, should not have been doing 2-a-days for fun. But I was.
Right. Of course. And
then it all breaks down. Did you experience any of that in the switch from your one addiction to the other?
Oh yeah. By going to CrossFit 6 days a week, like, within 2 weeks, I had hurt myself. Like, pulling a rower, I was trying to beat this other guy. I was racing so hard, like I tore a little bit of connective tissue between one of my ribs from pulling the rower like a maniac. I had a rotator cuff issue from gymnastics that flared up. And that's often when you start doing some activity, old things start to flare up. But the addiction to CrossFit, it started to, over time, it became, of course, it replaced my job. So I really wanted an exit from wedding photography anyway, but it made sense to open a gym. After 1 year, I was like, well, I'm curious about opening a gym. How do you do that? It can't be that hard. That is a false statement. There's nothing harder than owning and operating a CrossFit gym. It is the hardest thing I've ever done. So I did that for 4 years. But it just became everything. So now I'm a CrossFitter. Now I own a CrossFit gym. Now I'm a competitive CrossFit athlete with a CrossFit gym. I ended up selling my gym. But when you make this behavior change, like to being super fit, it has this domino effect. It changed the way I ate. Eventually I stopped drinking 4 beers a day. Not for the first like 2 years. I still drank like 4 beers a day. Like my brain, I mean, I knew that drinking 3 or 4 beers, I think I still drink IPAs, but maybe I cut down to like 3, but I knew that wasn't good. I would like watch the open announcement in 2015 or 2016 while drinking an IPA. You're like, I can't wait to do this workout tomorrow. And it was an addiction that I had to take time to break that addiction. Chewing tobacco. I didn't quit chewing tobacco until I qualified for the CrossFit Games in 2018. And the thought occurred to me one night that a CrossFit Games athlete doesn't chew tobacco. Now, there's probably a bunch of CrossFit Games athletes that chew tobacco, but in my mind, a CrossFit Games athlete doesn't chew tobacco. So I just threw the can away. And it wasn't like this epiphany. I still had all of the feelings of quitting an addiction. It sucked. Like that week was terrible. And the following week was less terrible. And the next week was a little less terrible. I mean, now I use, these are little coffee pouches. If I would have had these that first week of tobacco, like I replace chewing tobacco with a coffee pouch. And these are amazing, but they're non-addictive. So like I can go a day or two having just forgotten that these exist. And I'm like, oh, that's right. Ooh, let me have one of these. These are fun. But I've been shedding addictions that have stuck with me over the past 10 years of CrossFit. Like little by little, addictions have come off. Like I also pick up new things. Like my new thing over the past year is that I have a small bowl of ice cream every night. Like, and if I don't have ice cream in the house, I will almost drive like 30 minutes round trip to the store to get ice cream. It's not much. It's a little bowl of ice cream with a little chocolate on it, but it replaced the behavior of having a drink every night. And so like, okay, yeah, now I got an ice cream thing. And thankfully I build that into my macros. I have room for that. In 3,000 calories a day, I save about 400 calories of my daily intake for that very necessary bowl of ice cream. So I haven't solved any of this, Scott. I've just tried to manage my way around this addictive nature. It's built in. And so I also have to be careful with things. Like I don't want to introduce new addictions.
So I'm going to jump to, you have really become the face of the Masters division. And to go from a guy who was just confused and getting beat by pregnant women in the workouts to the face of an entire division is a huge leap. What do you feel your responsibility is with that?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I didn't plan for this, first of all, but it wasn't completely accidental. I mean, I started the process of sharing my thoughts and feelings on YouTube in like 2019, 2020. And it, to crickets, 1 or 2 people out there would watch a YouTube video is awesome. And like, wow, 30 watched this time. That was great. And it has picked up steam over time. I feel the responsibility now is to provide a positive and optimistic and realistic viewpoint of what masters can do above age 35. I've adopted the tagline, "Your best days are ahead of you," because that was something that when I was in my mid 30s and I was toying with weight gain, like I was nervous that I wouldn't be able to control weight gain, control my health, that my DNA was just like, I was destined to be old and unhealthy. And that maybe I was past my prime at 30, maybe 35. I really felt that. And it never came together. I started CrossFit, my body started changing. I started, doing well in competition, all of that kind of stuff. But it was really over the past couple of years that I realized this idea that your best days are ahead of you can be a reality, and that my life has gotten better as I age. And we even use these little phrases as masters athletes, like, man, I can't wait till I'm 50. Who says that, right? That's just like, I can't wait to level up to 50. I can't wait to get out of this age division. This 45 to 49 is getting really tough. I can't wait to jump to 50. And then, a couple years into 50, I can't wait till I'm 55. These are new thoughts.
For 1 second,
Yeah.
you're in probably the most consistent division for top 5 men in all of the Masters divisions.
Yes.
So it isn't easy.
No, these guys are ridiculous. They're unrelenting. They won't slow down. And most of them follow me. I don't really get a break. Like when I turn 50, there's a few guys that turn 50 with me that are just, it's not like, oh, I'm free. Now I'm 50 and they're back here. Some of them come with me. And then the next year, more of them come. So they're just, that's the detriment of this age group, is that we're all aging up together. It's not like we're going to shed any of these guys. But I feel like there's a responsibility to continue to inspire, everyday athletes or just even, guys that haven't started CrossFit, that you can at any age start this and make a dramatic impact on your life, huge impact on your life. So part of that audience is like, the person that was fit at 20, but thinks that their life is done. No, their best days can be ahead of them. Also, the responsibility is to continue to inspire the everyday gym warriors that maybe want to be competitive, that there is still room for that we can still at our age do crazy things on the competition floor and be a part of that. Like, I get really excited, not just about like winning. I have set a high bar for myself for sure, but it's not just winning, but just getting out on the floor. Like event 1, I'm giddy with excitement that I'm with all of these guys and we're going to go out there and do some stuff. Like we're going to go snatch and do clean and jerks, or we're going to go deadlift and rope climb, pull some stuff. I get so excited for those moments where we have an opportunity at our age to battle. So there's some sport in there. I don't know what that is, but I want to inspire guys and support them to help them experience that as I have. At the same time, the other responsibility is to try to have a good pulse and a beat on what people are feeling in the Masters age group, so that, look, I wish I had consistent conversations with like Dave Castro. Like, I don't. I should. Like, in fact, at the Legends Championship, he came up to me. He's like, Jason, we should talk more. And I was like, yes, we should talk more. How? That was the extent of the conversation. What I should have done was like, give me your contact information so we can talk more. Like, let me text you or something. But I want to be ready, if CrossFit ever does want to have conversations with me more directly. And I'm pretty close with the Legends guys, with Bob and Joe over the Legends Championship, the founders. We might text a couple times a week on certain weeks. So I have this ability to provide feedback to those guys from what I'm hearing from Masters athletes. I want to be able to represent, in a sense, our age groups, our division fairly. And so if something needs to be criticized publicly, I want to try to do that. If something needs to be praised publicly, I want to be able to do that as well, or supported publicly. When it first got announced that the games were going to break off the age group divisions, I was public that I was sad. I was bummed about that. And honestly, it was part of Change is Hard. I wasn't sure. There weren't a lot of details, but I was trying to be as transparent as I could be, because I feel like what I'm feeling is probably what the community is feeling as well, to an extent, right? And then as we hear about Legends and that partnership, and then we hear more about what all can go into that, Bob and Joe kind of can give me a little bit of more detail that sometimes I can't always share. It gives me hope and optimism that then I can share that hope and optimism with the group and lead us into the future of what the Masters division can look like in this sport. So I think all of those things are part of my responsibilities. Not sugarcoat anything, and also just not be a huge pessimist. There are voices out there, because there's not a lot of voices coming from CrossFit HQ. Okay. There's not a big, when Glassman was there, he led with his voice, with his passion. whether he was the best CEO or the best or the directions he led, whatever, not even judging that, but he was somebody who stood at a speaker and spoke to the community, right? There's no one at HQ that does that right now, I don't think. I mean, Dave does get on once a week. I love his things he puts on YouTube. Thank God there's something, but there's not a loud voice at HQ sharing. But there are voices out there that fill that void, and some of those voices can be pretty freaking pessimistic and really crap on CrossFit. And so I don't want to be that guy. I want to be a voice that is positive in every way that I can be. And also, if I'm disappointed or upset, I sometimes share that stuff too. You know, every time someone says every 45-year-old masters athlete is on performance enhancing drugs, someone says that all the time. And every time he says that, I'm going to post online that is BS. Not everyone is. I don't know anyone who is, and I'm certainly not. But anyway,
so
is that a fair answer?
Yeah, fair answer. But I'm going to give you a follow-up, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jamie to kind of finish this up and move into games talk for this coming season.
Cool.
I'm trying to find a way to ask this in a way that makes sense. You are the face of the CrossFit Masters, but you and like my friend Rudy have elevated yourselves through very hard work and a lot of accomplishments into a way that you're getting sponsorships that some of the other divisions aren't doing, right? And so you're asked a lot of times when big news breaks to come on show and give your opinion.
Yep.
But in some ways, because of your hard work, you've elevated yourself a little bit further than other athletes have. Do you feel you can still represent all athletes? Because like my friend Jamie here, one MFC, one Legends, she doesn't have the sponsorship deals that you have.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the sponsorship
athletes do.
Yeah, the sponsorship stuff, it's really funny because it's not because it's a weird, it's like a chicken before the egg kind of thing. At the end of 2020,
that was actually one of my questions was like, what came first? So you went to the games in 2018, your YouTube channel started in 2019. Did you winning the CrossFit Games get you attention, or did it take your hard work in social media presence and constant videos to get a big following for some sponsors to notice, or was it the wins at the games that got you there?
That is yes. I'm going to answer yes, all of that. The combination of the wins by themselves don't create an audience. Every year at the games, every year I won, as a Masters athlete, I bump up by a very decent amount of followers. And that was really cool. Like those first few days after the games, just seeing like all these new followers, and it was really, really fun. But the YouTube channel required consistency, posting about every week or every other week, even when there was crickets. And I have a video out there now that has done over 1 million views. And it had maybe 6,000 or 8,000 views for 6 months. And then something happened in the algorithm, and the algorithm just started showing anybody who searched for CrossFit my video. And I started getting into the 100,000 views, then 200, then 400, then 800, and surpassing 1 million views after a couple of years. But it was like, so this old evergreen content started to catch on the YouTube algorithm. And build followers and all of that stuff. So we're at almost 30K on Instagram, almost 30K on YouTube. And these aren't Brooke Wells numbers for sure, right? Danny Spiegel's got a couple more followers than I do. So her brand deals are going to be huge compared to what I'm capable of getting. But being a 4 times champion or having won everything for the last 3 or 4 years is helpful on the resume to legitimize my voice and what I'm talking about. And like, I know what I'm doing on the competition floor, but also having a channel that is very transparent, I think, and sharing consistently with the community, whether it's behind the scenes of me traveling in an RV or building a sauna or a day in the life of training or just one workout. All of those transparencies, I think, help build a community, build the audience, And it literally wasn't until the end of 2023 into the end of 2022 into 2023 where sponsors sort of exploded a little bit for me. And by exploded, we're talking, 6 or 8 sponsors. One of my favorite brands, Thirdsy, they started sponsoring me towards the early parts of 2023, maybe 2022. I can't remember, somewhere around there. So shout out to them because they were one of the first ones that committed to a Masters athlete receiving sponsorship money on a monthly basis for a product that I loved. So it's a win-win. So that was one of the first ones. At the end of 2022, I did a YouTube video on, my earnings, my 2022 earnings revealed. And it was like, yeah, I made $10,000 at the CrossFit Games. And people are shocked. Oh, you Masters. Oh, yeah, you guys get 10K. Well, didn't Justin Medeiros win $300,000 that year? Yes, we get 10K. Hey, there's 14 Masters divisions. That's a lot of cash to dish out. 10K. Thank you. I'll take it. This is how much I won at Legends that year. Here's the sponsorship money that year. And it was all, maybe it was $20,000. I think YouTube revenue was even in there too. So this is it's not a full-time job there. It doesn't even pay a mortgage. Doesn't pay for my truck. Okay, it pays for my truck, which I'm trying to sell if someone's interested. But then in 2023, some sponsors just started knocking on my door. It was really interesting. And I think it has to do with the size of the audience and that people are starting to realize, having tested and seen results, that sponsoring Masters athletes or doing work where they can get their product in front of Masters age groups is profitable. Like, we're a demographic that spends money. So if Jason Grubb says that, these grips are great, I'm going to give them a shot, right? Or if Jason Grubb loves these shoes or the, barbell apparel clothing, like, hey, let's see how that goes. Masters athletes can spend money. And my argument has always been that the disposable income is in the Masters age category. Dude, we fund the games. We fund everything. Like, there's more signups of Masters athletes in the Open than other divisions, obviously. We're a huge revenue source for CrossFit. We're a huge revenue source for all the brands, but they're dumping all of their advertising into 20-year-olds who are beautiful, no doubt, men and women. It's fine. But if they give us a shot, I think they're going to see a decent return. And again, we have to think, like Jason Grubb, I've got 30,000 followers on Instagram or 30,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's just, that's not a huge amount, but it's enough that sponsors will spend some money there. So to answer the question, yes, it does take so much work to intentionally build an audience on your social platforms. And it's not, it's work and luck. Like, I got lucky that some videos took off. I think the luck was there because I was very consistent in posting on regularly. Those early videos are tough. And even sometimes my existing videos, like, I'll watch one and I'll be like, oh, I forgot to cut that out. All right, well, it's out there now. It's got a few thousand views. I'm not changing it. So it also doesn't have to be perfect. For those that are thinking about doing this, just doing it is the win. And then you get better and you find out what people like. But perfection is not necessary, especially in YouTube. Almost the more professional, the more edited the videos, the less well they did. If I just grab a GoPro and document my day, boom, we crush it. So it does take all that consistent effort to grow that following. And also have, like, okay, I've also won a bunch of things. So that's helpful. Like, I'm good at this stuff, good at 2 things. And that's where sponsorships have come. Now, what's fun about that is I have some options with sponsors. Like, I've had to turn some sponsors down because it didn't work out. It wasn't the right fit. Like, I don't say yes to everyone. I like money. Trust me. I want, if someone's offering me a little bit of money, I want to say, yes, this is amazing, this thing. But sometimes I'll get a product and be like, oh, shoot, I do not like this thing. And so I'll never sign with somebody that I don't actually work with. But yeah, that's, Jamie, that's it. It requires both. And before I had an audience, I was trying to crack that nut. How do you do this? How do you figure this out? And it wasn't like building an audience hoping to get sponsors. I was building an audience because I felt like I had something to say, and I wanted to give that a go. And And I was honored when 200 people watched a YouTube video. I was blown away with that. I was like, 200 people looked at this. This is amazing. So I just kept doing it. The audience ended up just growing on its own, still growing every day. And sponsors, I mean, it did come together. But yeah, all of the work created the situation where I was lucky enough to have something of value for sponsors. I got to have enough eyeballs, and I have to be a legit athlete. Like, of course, Rudy should be sponsored. Rudy should have a huge audience. But he also has to get out there and like, I want to know more about Rudy. Jamie, I want to know more about you. If there's any content that needs more, I know I'm coming, is more athletes. Do it. Put your stuff out there. All right, Scott.
I did documentaries on Rudy and Jamie last year. They're sitting out on YouTube and for everybody to get to know them. And that's the hard thing, right? YouTube is a 20-something place to live.
It is.
And our 75% of our audience is 25 to 55.
Right. I know all the demographics. I'm not sure why 25-year-olds are watching my videos. I don't know what they're doing. But they like it. But you know what, Scott? It's funny because those documentaries, they live there, right? I was saying about that video that had a million views now at this point. Man, it just sat there. It sat there for a while. And then all of a sudden it became a suggested video. And again, there's this element where like you do all this work, it's out there. Now continue to post it. This is one thing that I don't do often enough. If I've got some gold out there, like there's some videos where I'm like, people should they should watch this. This was really good. I should have a consistent posting schedule of my evergreen content to remind people, hey, this is out there. Hey, if you want to know my entire RV adventure, I've got an entire playlist of all my RV stuff. People are like, can we see a full tour of the RV? I'm like, bro, just search YouTube. I did that, but they don't know. So you have to constantly remind them. And then maybe YouTube will find favor with you, like the gods, like they just shine on you.
Yeah. Last year, Jamie, this is how we kind of met and got together. She let me live with her for quarterfinals.
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
So we did the whole weekend, start to finish. And it was a roller coaster ride.
Yep.
A big one. It is one of the most favorite things I've ever done in this space.
That's amazing. I mean, how fun is that as an experience, both for you, Scott, and for you, Jamie, right? With quarterfinals, I don't know what the roller coaster elements were. You'll have to tell me, but like, if it was the one that had shuttle runs, I mean, that was a roller coaster in and of itself. I almost died in that workout.
Well,
we
went
died.
Hours debating whether you should redo an event. Hours.
Yeah, right.
Switching, like, no, I'm done. Then it was, no, I really should. I need to take this shot. And then, no, I'm done. I like literally back and forth.
Yeah.
And with like an hour left, you went, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
You did it. Which one did you do?
The row thruster one I tried to redo, but halfway through I was like, this isn't worth it.
I've done that.
It's not like I was not in contention per se. Well, you had to be top 30. So I guess I was like questioning
you just want to make sure
I would be. Yeah. I don't know. It's just like the blind, like I think Scott hadn't quite understood the nuances of blind leaderboard, waiting to see where you're at, how stressful that kind of stuff is. It's just like, and setting up the floor and having other athletes in the gym and just like that kind of stuff was kind of a behind the scenes that he was eye-opened it to.
I learned so much about that, but Jamie is so open, and so I did the same thing with Rudy for semis. And so Rudy is very much like in his own space, headphones in, doing his thing. Jamie will talk to me right up until go time.
Right. Yeah. And that's what's really fun. I think, well, I'll just say, I mean, I was at Mayhem last year doing quarterfinals and semifinals. We just happened to be traveling through the area, and it's funny because there was a lot of behind the scenes going on there. But you didn't, the videos, they didn't show all the preparation that goes into it, really goes into it. Showing the performance is one thing, and it's really fun. But what goes in behind the scenes when you're on, I mean, they've got a forklift, not a forklift, but one of those like I don't know, it's some machine that goes up.
A ladder truck.
Yeah. And so you have to have those. So if you're going to measure, unless someone's going to climb the rope to measure 15 feet, you need a way to measure 15 feet on a rope climb, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, I used to have like someone, okay, you climb the rope. I don't want to burn an extra rope climb by climbing the rope, right? So you have someone else that can climb a rope, drop a tape from up there and hang with one hand and a tape while you're filming. It's chaos, man. It's chaos doing these. It's the stress. It's double the stress because the workout is stressful enough. But all the setup, all the preparation, having two cameras, talking to the camera, starting both cameras, making sure everything goes well. Because if you lose that video, that's it. You're done. All the work is done. Your whole year. So fun to capture that stuff behind the scenes. This is the unseen stuff that it makes me think like I'll have to do that this year. Like it's like literally get into the details of the behind the scenes, and then to show parts of the workout. The workout. We've seen Jason work out plenty of times. How did you set up the floor? What are you measuring with? These are all very, very important issues. Yeah,
it can be 15 minutes or more of floor layout, setup, measuring, showing, and you're like no longer warm or ready to go.
Yeah, I'm cold. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then you cue up the music. Someone's got to handle the music. Like you can't just work out, in the quiet. So, and then you have someone that's like, someone's checking the camera every once in a while, make sure the camera, both the GoPro and the iPhone, are still recording.
Yeah.
It just makes me stressed thinking about it.
I know.
And I've done this 10 years.
The one that blew me away is so that you guys use we time.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yep. Right. So to line up the gym clock to the we time clock,
so stupid.
They would argue for 10 minutes on the process to get it lined up.
Yep. Yeah. I don't even use WeTime because of that. Unless I did an online competition, the Zelos games a couple years ago, and it was just me. I had to record all my own stuff, and I used the WeTime app. So I had to kind of estimate the main clock or with my watch. But no, I like to see a clock. Look, I manage my clock, my workouts by the clock, particularly in those types of events. So I have to see what my pacing is with that clock in my view. It doesn't always work because sometimes like the camera needs to be facing a certain way and the clock needs to be a certain direction. So there's times when I'll have two clocks, like one in front of me, one behind me, one in view of the camera, and it'll be like 3, 2, 1, click. Shit, we messed it up. Oh, sorry for my language. We goofed up. We messed up the clocks. Reset the clocks. Because the clocks have to be dialed in. But it's stuff like this that it makes or breaks your qualifier. And historically, when there's only 10 athletes going to the games, that you got to thread that needle so tight just to get to the games. Now that we've got a larger field, yes, there's still stress, and no, you can't mess up a video. You can't have a workout thrown out. You can't have any of that. But there's just a teeny little bit less stress. Like maybe I don't have to have a clock in front of me. I don't have to win the qualifiers. I need to be top 40. I think I should be able to do that. So fingers crossed. We'll see. We'll make something fun out of it. But yeah, back to that social media thing and how do you get YouTube to pay attention? One, YouTube is super fickle. I think about another podcast or that is on YouTube that I see, and it feels like this podcast should just be exploding. It should be exploding, but it's not. Even some of the largest podcasts out there that in the CrossFit space, on YouTube, they're getting sub 1,000 views on a particular, like a big athlete, Tia's on there and there's, sub 1,000 views. And it's really curious. It's just curious what YouTube decides. And if I ever figure that out, I'll call you, Scott, and I'll let you know. I'll let you know the inside track. If I crack that nut, me and Mr. Beast are going to figure it out.
I would appreciate that.
So I see you're sitting there in your
Yes.
Noble CrossFit Games sweatshirt.
Yes.
One of my biggest contentions with this split was the kit, because that is sort of a major thing that a big chunk of the athletes who try to make it to the games are going to get this athlete kit and look exactly like the regular athletes, the elites that are out there on the floor. Bob announced when you talked with him that
Yes.
it's a completely different sponsor. Northern Spirit is the gear sponsor.
Yep.
So right off the bat, and maybe I am just a negative Nancy. Maybe it's because I've never been there. I already feel like this is going the route that I expected when I heard the announcement, and I'm frustrated, sad, disappointed. Like, so we're just gonna get a couple shirts and shorts, and here you go. And you're definitely not gonna look like the elites. Like, they get displayed August 1st, you get displayed at the end of August. It's gonna look like a different floor. You guys aren't gonna look as professional. I think that was a giant draw to get some of the top athletes there.
Yes.
And now I worry that it's going to, some of these people are not going to sign up. And then it's like, am I truly the fittest 40-year-old in the world? Maybe not.
Right.
A few people probably didn't know.
Right. It's a good question and a good point. And that it is disappointing that it's not a unified title sponsor, right? That would be cool. And that would create unification in the overall sport, that the adaptive age teenagers and masters are wearing the same gear, go ruck, as the individual athletes. That would be super smart, right? That'd be a smart way to bring the brand, keep the brand intact, right? It would also be really smart to have the age group or the non-individual athletes have our games all prior to the games, so that they can feature footage at the games and show like, hey, here's the champions, or here's some, during the breaks, you just have on the screen, something from the pit teen throwdown, or have something from, the adaptive championship or our championship, whatever. And I say pit teen throwdown, I don't mean to say that, the teenage CrossFit Games. Let's just call it what it is. It is the teenage CrossFit Games, our Masters CrossFit Games. So, it'd be great to do that. Another way that they could unify that is if they had one of the open announcements this year include all the divisions in one age group announcement, or one announcement. So you've got an individual there, a couple of individuals, couple of age groups, a couple of adaptive athletes, to show like this sport is well-rounded. Like, hey, I don't know why they're not doing that. What are they thinking? Mm-hmm. It's like a softball. Like, here's how to say, hey, we're splitting these off to enhance the sport, and here's how we're all still unified, still together. So, okay, that's not what it is, but it is year one. And that's my hope, is that in year one, we have a transition year. And we do have a clothing sponsor, which is great. We have a clothing sponsor. I'd never heard of Northern Spirit, but someone from United Kingdom, or from Europe, United Kingdom, he sent me a message on Instagram. He's like, dude, their stuff is great. You may not have heard of them, but their stuff is great. It does sound like a tool company, Corey, but it's great. It's a good brand. The gear is great. So that's good to know. And yeah, our athlete package won't be what it was historically. Now, this is going to come across interesting. I do have this sweatshirt. I like, this is from 2022. I do like this old sweatshirt. I've been there 5 times, and I have 5 times worth of gear. I don't have anything from 2018 or 2019 anymore. I've given all that away, or I've worn through all of it. But every year, like, I just get a new 9 more pairs of Noble shoes. I get 9 more pairs, whatever. I don't even like those shoes. So I give all of those away because I don't use them. Now, what I'm saying is, like, I'm okay with not getting all of that. The first year it was great. And so that is where you are attracting those athletes. Like, hey, you get this thing on the first, you get that experience. What I think they will create at the games this year is that the experience of the locker room. I know that Bob and Joe have I've got a lot of thoughts in creating that locker room experience that you had with Noble at the games, even Reebok at the games, where you go in, you get escorted, you get all of your stuff. And that's really cool. And I will miss games. I loved going through at the games and getting like, all the swag, like, I don't have it with like Yeti water bottles. Like there was some pretty epic stuff there. That was great. Those were really cool things. And they were really nice. Like, it wasn't something like, it didn't take away from the competition. When I would get all of it, like, this is amazing, super cool. I would do like a swag video. That was a YouTube play. I'll be just transparent. I would immediately do a swag video, try to be the first one to show off what they gave us. And I got to use that to my advantage with Masters because we got them before the individuals got, so I could reveal all the goods. But as far as the athletes go, I think we could still draw. I think we could draw the biggest athletes in the world because this is the games. The fact that there's a field of 40 may reveal new athletes that were just under the radar. Maybe they don't qualify well, but they compete in person like maniacs. That was me. Like, I didn't qualify well. I've never qualified well until like last year. But then when you get me in person and I can crush some souls out there. So there may be some unique opportunities like that. But I also think, Jamie, this is year one. And I'm cutting some slack to everyone involved. I think about like Bob and Joe, like, why Birmingham? Why Labor Day weekend? They had 6 months to figure this out. So should CrossFit have maybe contacted them 18 months ago? Well, yeah, come on. Like, if CrossFit is like, hey, real quick, can you guys throw the games next year? We're going to do this instead. What do you think? We want to do this. And you guys have, a year to figure this out. In a better world or better situation, CrossFit gets way ahead of this. And now I know Bob and Joe are already working on next year. And I know that Bob wants our games to be prior to the individual games. So I think they're going to do everything they can. So one thing we do know is that there is going to be a year two. That's great to know. You know what I mean? Like, despite how year one goes, I think year one can be, I hope we knock it out of the park as Masters athletes. I hope we have record signups in the Open, record signups in quarterfinals, that the games are super funded, and it's just a big FU to the world that says, hey, the Masters are done. No, we will step up to the plate and make sure that our event is amazing, okay? And that's going to take some of our dollars. So we're going to do that, and hopefully that creates momentum into year 2, 3, 4, 5, and this can blossom into something that has its own legs, its own, like, yeah, we don't need Noble, but whoever wants to sponsor us, we get those bigger packages because we've proven we spend money, we can draw a crowd when we have the right setup, the right situation, and all that kind of comes together. But while this is a step back, it's I was almost thinking of it in this way, like, it's a step back in the same way that giving birth is a step back. Like, it takes a toll on the body, but then you come back stronger and better. Like, we're doing something new in the space. Year one is going to have lots of questions, but hopefully what we do in year one helps propel year 2, 3, 4, 5. And yeah, in 2025, 2026, maybe we're walking out of there with $4,000 worth of gear, every single athlete, Jamie, because that's what we were at the games. So, that's my hope. And I think that's the drive, I think, that the guys at Legends have. They have that level of passion. They just need the community to step up. And if we step up as Masters athletes, that's what funds their future with the games. And again, let's CrossFit and let's, whoever's running CrossFit, as far as the board goes and the private equity, that the Masters are actually a big deal in this whole thing. We actually have a really big voice, and we have really big checks to write in this space. Private equity always feels like this giant, just black void out there that shadows over CrossFit. And maybe they are, and maybe they'll sell in the next couple of years. Who knows? And who knows what a new owner would do? But as far as the sport goes, I think we're in a position now where, like, this is where we invest our time, we invest our energy, we invest our dollars, and because of that, we can see this become better if we go for it. And the tests, I'll just say this is the last thing I'm going to say. I know I've gone long on this particular answer. I know Bob loves to program the games, and I know that he's already programmed it. He texted me a few weeks ago. He's like, the games have been programmed. I'm like, bro, who gets to say that besides like Adrian Bosman or Dave Castro? Who has ever said that in the history? I've written the games workouts. Now he's collaborated with Bosman, but they've locked in. They know what semifinals are. They know what the games are. Bob's never going to tell a soul, obviously, because I'd love to tease him. I love to tease him, like, hey, tell me some stuff. Never cracking that lock. But they know how to test athletes. And so whoever wants to be crowned the fittest in their division will be tested as such at this games. And so if they don't show up, they can't be tested. That's it. Whoever shows up gets to be called the fittest on the planet in this age group, because these tests will be no joke. These guys know how to do some damage. I mean, Scott, you watch this. I mean, yeah, Jamie, I mean, Legends, we know what those tests are like. They're very good and they're very appropriate for our sex and our age. They know how to program some stuff that really tests us.
You make me want to go down so many paths.
I know.
Open up a lot of cans there, don't I?
I'm going to hit you with 5 or 6 quick hitter games questions for this year to get your opinion. And it comes from pretty much your interview with Bob.
Mm-hmm.
This year, games are indoors.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. The only place Legends was indoor. Legends had an outdoor pool, but generally was indoors, right? MFC was all indoors. The games has some outdoor events, and I mean, I love an outdoor event because I think I have an advantage. If it's hot, I love hot work. I love being in the heat. I love it. But Bob didn't say that they will all be indoors. He did mention something about there's some nice trails around town. There's some things like that. He mentioned he teased some of that stuff. Like, I don't even know what trails are around here. So if 90% are indoors, if there's a 5K trail run that they somehow figure out how to do something like that, that would be sick. Now that's also weather dependent. That puts them in a bind. So I could see year one, they could be like, hey, you know what? We have so many athletes. Let's just control this environment. But indoors is fine. And it's in Birmingham. We're all going to get super sweaty. The humidity will be a factor. But Madison has humidity. Madison has heat. Madison makes me sweaty too. I got to change my clothes after a games workout. So no big deal. But indoors is just safe. Like, we're not going to have any weather delays. There's no issues. They got a lot of people to get through. And I hate when we have weather delays that mess things up, because that happens every year at the games.
Or change a workout.
Yuck.
Right. Yeah.
I'm ready for legless rope climbs. Don't change it.
Yeah.
3 fields of play.
Awesome. That's awesome. Right? We can have longer workouts. I think one of our experiences at Legends, they had a lot of athletes there. We were working out, they were running Legends from 8 in the morning until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. That was a lot with 2 fields of play. Had to keep the workouts under certain time caps. I think the longest may have been a 16-minute time cap out at Legends. I can't remember, but 3 huge floors. Give us more time. Again, I'm talking selfishly. Give me more time, and I love it. The more time on the field, the better. But also fast workouts are great too. Heavy lifts are great. 3 floors allows for all the athletes to get a full experience and have, what did Bob say, 8+ events? Hell yeah. That's awesome. Every year at the games for the past few years, you always felt like they were really, really tightening it up with either less events, shorter events, 10 males, 10 females on the field at one time, really, really squeezing us together. I'm okay with all of that, but if you give us 9 events, it's awesome. 10 events, 12, and Legends has done that in the past. They always have 4 days of competition, and sometimes 2 to 3 events in a day. It's just amazing. Love it.
Bob talked about wanting to be centrally located for European athletes, for South American athletes, and not going with his home state of California.
Yeah.
I know you live in Birmingham. Do you think the Masters community as a whole is happy it's centrally located?
Wow, that's a good question. You know, I mean, centrally located to me feels like Denver, but that's where I lived. But Denver is isolated. It's far from anything. What's fun about Birmingham in a centrally located perspective, it's pretty close to Florida. It's very close to Tennessee. I mean, I think we border Tennessee. I think. No, I know we border from Tennessee. You know, we're a drive for quite a few athletes, but a very easy flight. You know, a lot of people flew to Madison, and you'd fly to Chicago and then drive to Madison. Or if you flew to Madison, it was a huge pain. Birmingham has a ton of flights. I've got direct flights to Denver all day long if I ever need one, which is where I was from. But Atlanta is the largest airport. I don't know. It's top 5 in the world or something. It's 2 hours away. So for international flights, Atlanta is the hub. And that's a super smart strategic place to be. And there's probably a flight every hour from Birmingham to Atlanta and back and forth. So it's great for everyone except Australia, right? We don't have a lot of, not a lot of countries in the East, but Australia, you know, shout out to Kane Hayes down there, who is aging up into my division. He's going to travel for like 39 hours and good, because he's a formidable foe. So give that guy as much travel as possible. Not really, Kane, if you're listening, but yeah, I think it's very easy to fly to, and the town itself is easy to navigate. There's a ton within range of the whatever the convention center where it's at.
BJCC.
Yeah, the BJCC. I live 20 miles away. So it's a 25-minute drive on the highway for me to get there. Anybody who wants to come to town, there's going to be tons of Airbnbs or whatever, VRBOs available compared to Madison. Or Masters Fitness Collective in Fort Wayne, Indiana. There's no Airbnbs. You have to find a hotel that has a kitchen, which we did, you know. We all like to cook our own food. I'm lucky enough to sleep in my own bed. Again, I've traveled to the games for 3 years in an RV. So I slept in my own bed. I just don't know how lucky I got on this one. But centrally located from a flying perspective, absolutely. A flight over the pond to Atlanta is super simple. So I want all the European competitors. Can't wait to see all those guys again and gals.
So then this is the biggest blow, I think, to Jamie and I, and that is teens and masters on the same date.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
We were really gearing up. We have a whole team channel on our YouTube.
Yep.
And we wanted to cover both with full team. And we're not going to be able to now.
Yep.
Bob said, not going to happen again. Joe said in the statement to me, we're going to wait and see.
I mean, I think Joe said in a separate podcast that they really wanted to try to do something together because they're pretty tight as teams. That would be something that would be really interesting if they were to somehow find a venue that was large enough to accommodate both. Wow. I mean, talk about like viewership, the ability to have everything consolidated. You know, the leverage in the numbers would just be amazing. So if they are somehow able to collaborate and make that something in the future, of course, your team is going to be working double time on one weekend, but at least not separated, right? Separation is tough. And yeah, I mean, it is if all these were broadcast, if the teens and the masters were broadcast and we had these huge broadcast teams, it could be one of those amazing weekends to watch. I don't think budget's going to allow for that in year one. But yeah, it's unfortunate. And, you know, I think there was lots of questions on why Bob chose that weekend, knowing that the teen championship is that weekend as well. And they just didn't have options. There was just no time and no options on year one. But I do believe that in year two, they will do everything they can to try to find the right fit there. So if it's together, that's awesome. 2 separate weekends, even better. All of those happening prior to the big event would be, you know, phenomenal.
Yeah.
And bummer for for those coaches that have to coach masters and teens. Yeah, that's hard. It's a bummer. If you need to sub in a master's coach, you know, like if you have an athlete that's their first time there, tell them to reach out to me. Like I can offer some assistance, anything that I can do to help somebody with their first games experience. I've never had a coach there that helps me strategize. I've always done that on my own. But I'm happy to help, show someone the ropes. We all talk behind the scenes anyway. It's a funny thing. Once you get there, I'm not always strategizing with the guys in my age group, but I am strategizing with everyone outside of my age group, right? I want to know when someone walks off the field. This was the best event. In 2021, we had a workout that started off with 20 ring muscle ups. That was our age group. 20 ring muscle ups into like this sprint. And then we did snatches into a sprint and then rowing into a sprint. But the first thing was 20 ring muscle ups. And I was preparing for that. I was thinking I'll break it up into like 12 and 8 or 14, 6 or something like that. But it was windy and the straps are super long. So it's super risky to come down. So I was preparing. Rick, my co-host on my podcast, he had just come off the field in the 50 plus division. He's like, yeah, I went 15 unbroken. I was like, Rick went 15 unbroken. Okay. And I know my capacity compared to Rick. If Rick could go 15 unbroken, I think I can go for 20. And I went out there and I gambled big time and went 20. I mean, my last rep was like, it's one of those last muscle ups where you catch it. And if you don't, if I don't get this muscle up, it's going to take me another 2 minutes to finish one more. And luckily I got through 20, but it's those little things that you learn at the games. Like you're trying to find the TV that's on the field before you. So you see what is this workout doing to the teenagers? Okay. So they're pulling, they're not slowing down here. You learn all of this kind of fun stuff in person. So masters athletes, this would be my advice to coaches. If you have a masters athlete and a teenager, you've got to go with the teenager. The masters athlete can fend for themselves. Like we'll be okay. We'll all support each other. You don't send a teen by themselves. Like go be with your teen. Wouldn't you say?
I would agree with you completely. The trick is that some masters athletes are teen coaches.
Oh, I know. In those situations, you're host. You're just host, man. And then you're not competing as the master. That's how it goes. It's the year that you don't get to go, right?
You have a huge contingent of, it was evident at Legends, like your Boulder athlete has grown. You have a ton of athletes. I take it you have no teen athletes. It's typically an older crowd. Yeah,
it is masters training, straight up masters training. Now, interestingly, it would be great for teenagers too. The needs of masters athletes and teenagers are very similar. So for example, like we need to do smart volume. We need to be careful with our volume. And teenagers actually do too. The 17, 18-year-olds, maybe not quite as much. They've got a lot of natural healing remedies just flowing through their veins all day long. But 14, 15-year-olds, we're very similar. I actually have one of our Boulder athletes, his son is a 14-year-old looking to go to the games. And he does the exact work his dad does, which is athlete training. And this kid is crushing it because it makes sense. 14, 15-year-olds and 40-year-olds should have pretty similar training. The 14, 15-year-olds shouldn't be doing what 25-year-olds are doing, and neither should 40-year-olds. So I don't think we'll ever cross that bridge and call it the Boulder Athlete Masters and 14, 15-year-old training program, but it would be fun. But yeah, there's a good amount of Boulder athletes out there. And that's one of the things that was fun about Legends was having that contingent that I think we had 14 or 15 athletes out there. We all collaborated. It was really fun. Like, oh, hey, someone's going. So we all go down and watch someone and cheer them on, right? If we could, unless someone's warming up or you're whatever. But yeah, we had a lot of fun with that. You can really support each other when you have a solid team. So that's another factor. And we'll adopt somebody if they need one. Even if they don't follow the programming, we come on over. We'll help you. And then, get up on the podium next to me is fine.
Here's my last question. I mean, there's a lot on my notes, but
of course
we're going to finish it up with this because we're going to have you back on throughout the season.
Happy to.
When it was announced, the team piece, Lana has been in the chat. Lana, you getting your 70 plus as a trial. I could not be more stoked for that. Super excited. Let people know what's possible. But with the team thing, if I'm an individual athlete and it's year one and I already know it's going to be clunky, why add more burden to my plate in year one?
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's just year one.
True. So that's a good question. It's year one for this experience of the games, for the collaboration, right? But it's not their first rodeo running a large event and a large event with a team or with a team event at the same time. They did this at Legends in a constricted field, right? Field of play, very constricted. And it was, the teams had a great event. I mean, they all loved it. They didn't have enough events. They only had 2 days worth of events. And so that was, I think, part of their feedback. I know the team event at the games will have 3 days of competition. But I think it was a necessary, I think it's brilliant. First of all, it was brilliant to take on additional competitors, which will bring more human beings to the event, more fans to watch the teams and the individuals, more overall athletes, more revenue that can help support the event. And honestly, the more people, the more buzz around that whole thing, the better it is for the future of the Masters games. Like if there is social media, when there are like still pictures and there's a crowd behind somebody, that looks better than at the games when it's like empty. There's like a person in some empty stands. Where the games venue was too big to make the Masters look special. This will be a nice, concise event with a ton of human beings, a lot like Legends in Phoenix, where every event, I mean, it looks like it's a packed house. And you actually did have to kind of shuffle your way through to see someone there. And that's a fun experience for the athletes to look out there and see like all these people watching. I'm doing my PR clean and jerk, and there is someone I know 8 feet standing in front of me while I'm doing this thing. Hopefully I'm not spittling on them. So it is an increased workload, Scott. And so your point is why take on this additional workload? And I think, one, they have some experience doing it. I think they'll be okay. 2, it draws more revenue and all those extra people, and they're just willing to, put in all the extra overtime for that trade-off, right? More athletes, more people, more revenue, more attention in that area. Instead of however many 400 plus athletes, we'll have 600 plus athletes and potentially families and friends and all the people. Not to mention Birmingham is a thriving CrossFit community. Like it's crazy how big CrossFit is in this huge metro area. Compared to any place I've been, I'm constantly surprised at how big it is. So I think we'll have a lot of local viewership down here as well. People can drive from Nashville, Cookeville, I mean, anywhere in Tennessee in 2-3 hours. It's close. Draw from Atlanta as well. Anyway, I think they bite it off the team competition. They've got some experience with it. I think they can do it really well. I have no idea what it's going to look like to have this simultaneous competition happening. The games and the team's community event. I don't know how all that will shake out, what that'll end up looking like. Maybe different shirts. I don't know, but I'm not overly worried about it. I just love the idea that like last night we did a podcast with Bob Ruano. He's a 6-time games athlete. He's 54 this year. He's Mr. Consistency, awesome, energetic dude. And he's like, I'm 54. I'm a little bit beat up. I don't think I'm going to do the individual this year. And then teams shows up. He's like, but I think I may do it for teams because that sounds like fun. So you have this whole extra group of people that, when I'm 49, I'll probably still try to go for it again at the games, yada, yada. But there is this temptation like, a team event for 1 year, take all that pressure off. Man, that sounds like fun. So there's a lot of all those positives go along with it. And then it could be this teaser. Like, what if there was a CrossFit Masters team event? I mean, a games team Masters division. If that was something that showed up in the next few years and you had to qualify as a team for Masters games, like that'd be a pretty cool addition to expand everything that we have available to us as Masters. I can age up into 50, and once I'm 53, it's like, hey, I'm going team for 2 years. Like I'm done with individuals until I'm 55. That could be an interesting way to promote longevity in the sport and keep people engaged,
Well, thank you for that perspective. because it does give me a different outlook on it. One, the pro that I see is it's also a feeder system. Those people right on the cusp of making the games gives them some high-end experience on a competition floor. But the one con I see is we can't get the elite team stuff right. You know?
Yeah. A lot of logistics.
I would say that the Masters out, there were more people in the stands for the Masters than for the teams.
Yes. Agreed. From a spectator perspective, it's weird at the games. You'd see that the place clear out. If there wasn't when Froning was on teams, that was it. He drew his own audience, but it really cleared out for teams. And so from a spectator perspective, you're right. The teams is not, there's so much going on. You can't keep track of it. It's too broad in the sport to know what's on. Like the final team event, you're like, okay, yeah, I want to watch that. That could be fun. But it's just so funny because the experience of being on a team is night and day compared to being an individual. It's so much fun to be on a team. So I don't know how they navigate that bridge between no one, without saying it like this, but people don't watch teams very much. But the experience of being on a team is so great. Maybe it stays a community event forever. I'm not sure, but I just know that I'm doing my first team event at Wadapalooza, California this year. I can't wait to be on a team. It's going to be so much fun. I've got a couple of beefcakes on my team. These are some legit athletes that reached out to me and they wanted me to help round out their age group. I'm like, okay, I'm the old guy. We'll go out there and have some fun. As long as we don't swim in the Pacific Ocean, I'll be good to go. But I think the teams, I think there's a ton of fun being on a team. But yeah, that spectator experience it's tough. The logistics of running a team events as well. I think the games gets a little creative, overly creative with their team events sometimes, like synchronized double unders. Bob and Joe won't do that, right? They've got judges that need to manage a 4-person team. Got to keep that stuff simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jamie, do you have anything to finish up with?
No, I'm good.
Y'all are great. This was fun.
As always, we love having you on. We love your perspective. We'll continue to do this through the season for sure.
Yep.
And before we go tonight, Jamie and I will be back with Thursday Night CrossFit Talk with a special guest co-host. Carolyn Prevost is going to be my crutch tonight, filling in for me there. And then tomorrow, Cheryl Nasso and I, my nutrition coach, and I are going to talk about everything I went through, where I am with my recovery, and all that tomorrow. So with that, stay tuned. Check us out. Jason, good luck on the season, and we'll stay in touch. With that, we will see everybody next time on.
Thanks, guys.
Find my mouse.
Thanks,
on the CrossFit or Clydesdale Media Podcast.